In this box is the Vvolt Alpha II, and I was about to start unboxing it from the top like every one of my other e-bikes, but it says don't do that. So I unboxed it from the side, and it was a much easier process when you actually follow the instructions. It was super simple to unpackage this. Everything came in really nice condition. Nothing was damaged or scratched on this, and it was a very easy process to actually assemble it. Once I finally got this put together, it looks awesome. I love this dark gray color mixed with the black. It looks very sleek and modern. And I've already actually tested out their Alpha 1. This is just an upgraded version of that. And I can tell they already improved some of the features on this bike. So I'm excited to go through it. Taking a look at the front of the e-bike, these look like normal sized bicycle tires. They're 27.5 inches by 2.4 inch tires. And the rubber on these feel pretty thick and durable. I think they're puncture resistant, so that should help you out if you're riding over rough terrain. But it doesn't have any front suspension, so the ride might be a little bit more bumpy for you. For me, I realized that when an e-bike doesn't have front suspension, it really depends on the quality of tires they use, because I've rode e-bikes without suspension and they're still really smooth if they have good tires. But we'll see how this performs when I actually take it out. This doesn't come with any fenders out of the box, but you can purchase them separately if you want to add them on. One of the differences between the Alpha 2 versus the Alpha 1 is this e-bike actually has integrated lights built right into the bike. I love also how this front headlight is built right into the frame. It's not a third-party light that just attaches up here by the front wheel. So I feel like it looks a lot better. It looks more modern and sleek. And then the rear tail light is just right here under the seat post, and they work pretty nicely. There's a designated button for them on the control panel for you to turn them on and off, so I feel like they work great. Maybe one improvement to the rear tail light would be if it shined brighter when you squeeze the handbrakes. That would just signal to people that you're braking. It doesn't have that feature, but they do turn on to just give you some light when you're riding at nighttime. When it comes to the handlebar setup, these are swept back handlebars, and I personally like that better. They feel more casual and comfortable when you're riding, and it almost puts me in a more upright position. So I love that they kind of sweep towards you, and they look really nice. The hand grips on them are very squishy, and they have little pads that come out for your palms to just give you more comfortability when you're riding. And then on the left side of the handlebar, it has your control panel, which allows you to access all the different functions of your e-bike, and it's really easy to toggle through all the different settings without having to take your hand away or look down to see what you're doing. It's all very easy to operate. Their display on this e-bike looks like their own. I haven't seen this layout before, but it looks very clean. It's bright, it's easy to see, and it has all your necessary metrics on it for you to easily see your miles per hour, your odometer, your time you've been riding, all those different functions. On the right-hand side of this e-bike, it has your bell, and it also comes with a thumb throttle. The brakes they use are hydraulic brakes, which I'm a big fan of these on electric bikes. They just help you to stop the e-bike faster, safer, and they just feel better to squeeze and operate. So I'm pleased that they went with that for this new design. Moving on to the frame here, I love the color like I mentioned before, but I also like the design of it. It has a bar up top here to just give the frame a little bit more rigidity and support. And I also like that it comes down. That way it's still easy to get on and off of it. And then you can see that the battery is located at the bottom here. There's a spot right here to put your key in to take it out. If you want to charge it in the house and leave your bike in the garage or something, you can do that. The seat on this e-bike is sleek and slender, which some people prefer, but I personally like larger, more squishy seats. That just feels more comfortable to me, especially when you're riding an e-bike that's more of a cruiser that has swept back handlebars. Usually, since you're in an upright posture, more of your weight is distributed through the seat here, so I personally like a little more cushion to it, but other people like these as well, so it's up to you. A unique thing about this e-bike compared to a lot of other e-bikes is this actually has a belt drive instead of a chain, so it's not going to have any oils or any grease on it that's going to get you dirty if it gets on your clothes or anything. And a belt is supposed to last longer without having to do maintenance on it compared to a chain, so that's kind of an advantage there. However, this doesn't have any gears for you to actually shift through like when you're going up hills, so you're going to have to rely on the pedal assist. It has 5 different levels, and hopefully that'll be enough to change how you're riding, whether you're going faster or slower or going up hills. Hopefully that'll be a nice experience. I won't know until I actually take it out and ride it, but it's cool that it has a belt. I think that's unique, and a lot of people do prefer belts. They're supposed to be quieter as well when you ride, so we'll see what it's like when I actually take it out, but that's what it has. The motor on this is only 350 watts, so I'll have to see how it handles hills when I actually take it out and test it. The last few features I want to mention is that the battery is UL certified, which I love that. They've taken the time to go through those extra safety measures. And then the last feature is that this e-bike only comes in at 44 pounds, which is really lightweight, especially for an e-bike. A lot of times they're heavier and they might be a little bit more difficult to manage, but since this is more lightweight, hopefully it'll be more nimble when I actually test it out. So be sure to watch that follow-up video because I definitely want to take time to use this and operate it and let you guys know my thoughts on the riding experience. And the last thing I want to mention is that at the time of this recording, this e-bike comes in at a price of $1,800. And based on all the features that I went through, I feel like that's a very justifiable price. But a big portion of the price really comes down to the riding experience. So I'll have to let you know my final thoughts when it comes to the pricing. So these are my thoughts. First of all, one of the things that's really grown on me is the way this e-bike looks. I feel like it's a very stylish e-bike. I love the design of it and the overall color choice, and I feel like it's built very well. All the components on it feel very nice. Nothing feels chintzy or flimsy like it's gonna break. Everything looks nice. It's very clean. I like that the headlight is built right into it. You don't typically see that on a lot of e-bikes. I also like this bar for added support for the frame, but I like that it still goes down lower, so it is still very easy and accessible to get on and off of, versus just if it was a full step-through frame, it wouldn't have as much durability. And if the bar was up higher, it would just make it more of a nuisance to get on and off of. So I just love the layout of the bike in general. One thing that could have been a little bit nicer would be if it put fenders on both the tires. That would just be a little bit nicer if you ride in dirtier conditions. Now, when it comes to the comfortability of this e-bike, I'm kind of split down the middle. I feel like the seat is pretty slender and thin and firm, which I prefer just more larger cushiony seats. That's what I typically enjoy. But I know a lot of people do like these more slender seats just for functionality purposes. So I guess it's not that big of a deal. But to me, I just like a little bit more comfortable seats. And also I think something that would have helped the ride out a little bit would be if it gave you some front suspension that would just help it out, smooth out the bumps a little bit. But I will say that the tires feel really nice and durable. They feel like a thicker rubber, like they're not gonna puncture that easily. And they do help to soften the bumps when you go over top of them. And then the other big thing that I really like about the comfort is actually the handlebar setup. I love that they're swept back handlebars. This is just easier to ride versus being leaned forward in a really athletic position. So this feels way more comfortable to me. And I also like that it's more of an upright stem on this thing that also helps to put you in that upright posture. So I really like the way that my body mechanics felt when I was riding this. Also, when it comes to the riding experience, I do want to talk about the belt drive because I feel like there's some pros and cons to it. The pro is that typically belts last longer than chains and they're not as greasy. They're not going to get your clothes all dirty. There's less maintenance that has to be done with them. And I feel like it makes for a quieter riding experience. This thing is pretty silent when you're actually riding it. So all those things are pluses with it. But one of the downfalls is when you're traveling at faster speeds, you do lose a lot of resistance in the pedals. And I think the reason is because, first of all, it's only a single drive. It's not like you can shift through gears. But the other main difference is I feel like it's a cadence sensor versus a torque sensor. If it was a torque sensor, I feel like it would have had a little bit more adaptability to how it rides. But since it's just a cadence sensor, it kind of just brings you up to a set speed. So no matter how hard or softly you're pedaling, you just go at that speed. So there isn't a lot of resistance in your pedals at faster speeds. So I typically found this e-bike to be more comfortable when you're pedaling it in slower speeds like pedal assist level 1 or 2. But when you get to 3, 4, or 5, you lose all resistance in your pedals and your feet are kind of ghost pedaling. So you can just casually, effortlessly move your legs and the bike is still going to propel you forward, or you can even rely on the thumb throttle. So I will say that it's very effortless, but I would prefer just a little bit more resistance in the pedals. Another thing that I've really appreciated with this e-bike is how lightweight it is. I feel like I've been testing out a lot of e-bikes that have been heavier bikes, like fat tire bikes, or just normal e-bikes that are heavier, but this one feels really light to me, and it's because I haven't had a lightweight e-bike in a while. This only comes in at 44 pounds, which may seem a little bit heavy, but it's honestly super light compared to a lot of other e-bikes. So just managing this feels super nice and nimble. I feel like I can be zippy on it, and just hauling it around, picking it up and putting it in my house or taking it out in the garage, moving it places has been really simple to do just because it's more of a lightweight e-bike. So overall, I feel like this has been a pretty solid e-bike. It has some nice components on it, which make it feel a little bit more higher end. Again, my one biggest downfall about it is that you lose resistance in the pedals at faster speeds. So that just feels a little bit unnatural to me. But the rest of the bike seems to work really nicely and well. I feel like the range on the battery is good. And one thing that I actually really enjoy as well is on your screen layout, you can toggle to a mode that lets you know how many miles you have left on your range. So that's really nice because a lot of times they just show you like a battery bar indicator, but this will say you have 43 miles left on this trip. So that's really nice to give you an idea of how far you can go on it as you're actually pedaling, to know if you need to stop and get gas or fill it up with electricity. So that's kind of cool about it. I really enjoyed that. And there it is. If you want to check it out, then yeah, I think it's a sweet bike. I think you'll be happy with it. More in a city experience or urban environment versus like the country where I live. I feel like I would have appreciated this more if I lived in the city and got to ride on like smoother types of environments or on sidewalks and commuting around. So those are kind of my thoughts about it, but check it out. I'll put a link in the description below. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this video gave you a little bit of insight.